welcome to my channel, Debut. I'm Melanie, and I'm here to share my experiences as a military spouse. And I also like to help you and your family save more money and plan accordingly to come out ahead so that you don't feel like your dollar's not stretching for you and your family. And when your loved one is deployed, you will make it on the new strategic planning that I am going to set up for you. Each session we have together, I will discuss a key topic and then give you some strategies for you to look forward to doing to the next video a week later. So this is our first session and first time meeting. We'll start with one of our most basic elements, which is the topic will be, where does my money go? Why does it feel like my money is disappearing? And this is a common question with many military families. It's our lifestyle, how we get paid, that makes a difference in impacting how our dollars are stretched. So the key topic is, why is this hitting military families harder, especially inflation at this time is very high. So your paid allowances are not always predictable because sometimes it's impacted by shutdowns or delay in payments if you're PCSing. And then you have a different payment, COLA, cost of living adjustment, is based on your zip code or where you're stationed. So that impacts your pay. That's one of the areas. And then I did mention PCS moves. You usually move every 2 to 3 years. Sometimes you might be able to stay at a location a little longer. And when you PCS, that creates expenses because you got to find a place to live. You might be able to be on base for a little while and live on base, but if you can't, sometimes there's a waiting list and you have to find somewhere else to live. So while you're waiting to find somewhere else to live, you're paying out of pocket, but you will get reimbursed for most costs. But at this time, due to the higher cost of living, inflation, the food costs, that can be sometimes very disappointing and stressful for families to overcome the PCS moves. Like I said, the temporary lodging can cause you to be in a higher cost pay. It increases your costs when you have to go to temporary lodging. And then the cost that you have in setting up a new home, some stuff you'll bring with you, some of your household goods will go with you, but sometimes you still have to get new things. And then you have to wait for your reimbursement to come in. And while you're waiting, you're spending. So that creates a deficit. So you really have to be sharp and strategic about how much money you're spending until you get reimbursed. Another key element as to why it's harder for military families is the spouse that's not a military member has to try and find a position. Now, if you're federal government employed, spouse, if you're a spouse that's employed by the federal government, you can request to have you can get on the list where you're a priority to get hired. And that's a whole nother segment, so I won't get into that. But being unemployed causes extra financial stress on a family. And this is not something to take lightly because right now it's hard for a lot of people to find jobs. So it's very key that you be very strategic in places that you apply based on your skill set, and make sure you keep your resume updated. And sometimes a military paycheck is not enough to cover all family expenses. So when there's 2 people working in the home, that helps offset the cost of living in wherever they station you to live with your love with your soldier or sailor or whatnot, whatever branch of service. So it does matter where you're located because California is it's a whole lot more expensive than Georgia. So having those two incomes does offset a lot of cost. Um, and then sometimes some families might have high debt, um, and you would want to get with a financial advisor if you can afford one, or get with your bank and discuss options about um, your carrying debt or credit card debt and how to pay off your debt faster. Um, so you'll have ups and downs if you have debt already that you're carrying in addition to saying you're not employed. So those are other areas where you're getting the paycheck, but it feels like you're in a big crunch because you're trying to cover down on not being employed and carrying the debt. If you have debt from the last duty station you left, you weren't able to pay off that debt. So that's just another expense that creates more of a challenge for military families. So let's talk about how good money disappears, meaning the money that you're bringing in, you're like, where does it go? I just got paid, and it's every 2 weeks you get paid unless you have it set where you get paid once a month. So housing is one of those things where your BAH might run out quicker than you expect. Like I said, living in a high cost city, a metro area, is forcing you to spend more money. Maybe you have to commute in. Um, Someone in your family has to do a commute. That's expensive. Gas, eating, the food. If you go out to eat, that's higher cost than if you could stay home and eat. Let's see, your rent might be higher. And then, like I said, each PCS can be very expensive or not as expensive based on where you live. So you want to make sure you check out all the resources on a military base that you can use to lower those costs. A good example would be going to thrift stores. Some thrift stores have some high-end items, or shopping more, not necessarily shopping at the mall. Go to Marshalls or other stores like that where you can still get brand names if you're interested in brand names. And sometimes people do what's called swaps, where you might meet a family and they're trying to get rid of things, and they say, oh, you could just have that because we're leaving, we're not going to use that anymore. So many military families, you could collaborate with them to maybe get some products that you might need and you don't have to pay for it. Maybe you can give them something they need. Also, what can be an expense is childcare. If you are working, say you do have a job, childcare is very expensive and it tends to be higher in metro cities. So that's another way that your money seems like it's just rushing out the door because childcare is just so expensive. And with the increase in inflation, say you have a toddler, they're still in diapers. Diapers are very expensive. Baby food goes up in price. So childcare in general is expensive. The younger they are, the more expensive it is. And then those that are in school, you have the before care and after care programs, and then playing sports. So you really have to pay attention to all of those expenses and plan accordingly for those monthly expenses. Don't put it in a nice spreadsheet or in another software program. And I'll do a segment on different programs that you can use to budget. That'll help you track where you're spending, where your money's going. And then you have what's called lifestyle creep. All of us can be guilty of that. You're trying to eat out more, or you say, hey, I need an upgrade in my car because you want a nicer car and you want to do things. So just be aware of that. So that's all I have for this segment. And I highly recommend that you use whatever resources are on the military bases to help your dollar stretch when you're PCSing, and um, talk to your neighbors. See what programs they've located in the military community. And if you live off base, definitely check with your neighbors, churches, and community centers nearby that might have programs to assist you with childcare, and other areas that you may have never ever thought of to save money. And thank you for spending time with me today. See you soon.